know it's been a long time since you've seen me do a video, but a lot has happened since the last time I've done a video. I moved into a new house, and I'm engaged, and I've got a great kid, but now that I've got some free time, I thought I'd do a quick video right quick. This will be my Spider-Man Homecoming spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie, then don't watch this video, because this video will have some spoilers. So you have been warned. So, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I've been a fan of Spider-Man since I was a little kid. And I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. Well, I love the first two. I didn't care for the third movie. I thought that movie was a big disappointment. And something was just a little bit off with the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies. I don't know. Something just wasn't quite right. It's just that I guess Andrew Garfield was just a little bit too old to play as Peter Parker. He just never really seemed like the right type of person to play as Peter Parker. Even though I did like his Spider-Man. He did good as Spider-Man. But him as Peter Parker, it just didn't quite match. Now, Tom Holland, his performance of Spider-Man and Captain America Civil War was spot on. I mean, he kind of looks like Tobey Maguire. A little bit, he reminds me of him, but like a younger version of Tobey Maguire. And I thought he did an awesome job in Spider-Man, playing as that part in Captain America Civil War. So my expectations were very high for Spider-Man Homecoming. And after seeing the movie, my expectations have been met. I mean, he does a great job playing as Peter Parker. He's probably the closest version to the comic book version of Peter Parker, which was supposed to be like a 15-year-old kid. And Tom Holland, even though he's actually 21, either 20 or 21, but he looks like he's 15. So he looks the part. And overall, the movie, basically in this review, I'm just going to be talking about what I liked about the movie and what I didn't like. And it was very little of the movie I didn't like. Let me start with the parts that I really love. Obviously, Tom Holland did a great job playing this Peter Parker. Basically, in the movie, he wants to be an Avenger. And that's, he wants to prove himself to Tony Stark that he's ready to be an Avenger. And, what I like about it is that he tries very hard, but he kind of messes up from time to time because he's an amateur. He hasn't been fighting crime that long. He's still gaining experience fighting crime. And basically, Tony Stark is like his mentor, trying to give him advice on what to do and the right decisions to make. And, yeah, I just really like the character of Peter Parker. I mean, you get to see a lot of his, what his daily life is like, going to high school, and, there's this girl that he really likes, and he wants to impress her, and he's got his best friend that ends up finding out that he's Spider-Man. And it was very interesting seeing, his experiences in high school, because you do get to see that in the other Spider-Man movies, but they don't really cover it as much as they did in this movie. And I thought they did a good job of covering Peter Parker's personal life. Now, as for the action scenes, and just I always pay attention to the little details, especially with Spider-Man. And I really like how you get a good sense of Spider-Man's abilities. I mean, he's got the super strength. He can stick to walls. He web slings. And one of the funny parts is that there's times in the movie where he's in areas where he can't web swing because he's got nothing to shoot his web to. Like, there's a part in the movie where he has to run across this field because obviously there's no buildings for him to web swing to. But one of my favorite parts of the movie was towards the end of the movie during the final battle with the Vulture. And there's this part where Peter Parker is trapped under this rubble. And you could tell that Peter was in a desperate situation. He was panicking. He was yelling for help. But he had to think to himself that, hey, I'm Spider-Man. I should be able to get myself out of this situation. And this whole scene is based off this really important part in the comic book where Spider-Man was in a similar situation where he was trapped under a building. And he knew he had to help his friends out, or he either had to help Aunt May or somebody. And he had to summon up all his strength to lift that rubble in the comic book. And that's what he did in this movie. And I really like how they kind of used that inspiration from the comic book to use that for this scene for this movie. Now, as for Michael Keaton, he did a really good job playing as the Vulture. He's one of those villains that you understand why he became a bad guy, because he kind of got screwed over at the beginning of the movie. Because at the very beginning, Michael Keaton was the head of the company that was supposed to be the cleanup crew for the aftermath of the battle from the first Avengers movie when they fought in New York. And Michael Keaton's crew was supposed to be the one that was supposed to clean up. But then another crew that was hired by Tony Stark came in and just took over and basically screwed Michael Keaton out of his job. And, I kind of felt sorry for him because he did get screwed over out of his job, which was wrong. But, at the same time, you can't become a criminal just because you got screwed over out of your job. But, they did a good job of letting us know why he did what he did. Now, the part of the movie that shocked the hell out of me, and I think it shocked everybody else in the movie theater, was that it turns out that Michael Keaton is the father of the girl that Peter Parker was trying to date in the movie. That caught me completely off guard. I was not expecting that. As for the action scenes, there's a lot of chase scenes in the movie. There's times, but the thing is, it's not like Spider-Man fighting like these really big, like super duper dangerous criminals, because he was fighting a lot of like low-level thugs, and the only really dangerous criminals were the Vulture and the Shocker, and everybody else were like just low-level thugs. But I like that aspect of the movie because, Peter Parker is still new to being a superhero. So it's kind of like it's his way of working himself up to be a better superhero. And this movie had a lot of funny parts. There's this one part where, Peter Parker thought this one guy was stealing a car, but it was actually the guy's actual car, and he didn't realize it, and he accidentally... he ended up webbing the guy to his own car, and I thought that was kind of funny. He thought he was stealing the car, but it belonged to that guy. And there's this funny part at the end of the movie where Aunt May discovers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and just that whole scene was funny, the way she reacted. But overall, I would say that... I would say Spider-Man Homecoming is just as good as Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. I like those movies equally, but I think that Spider-Man Homecoming is definitely better than the first Spider-Man movie, way better than Spider-Man 3, and much better than The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. So Spider-Man Homecoming... is tied for #1 as the best Spider-Man movie in my opinion. And I think that you should go out and see this movie because it's a different take on Spider-Man. They're not trying to copy Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. They're not trying to copy Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man. They're just doing their own thing. And it's basically, this Spider-Man movie feels fresh and new. And I think if you're a fan of Spider-Man, I think you will like this movie. The only negatives I could say about this movie are really ain't too much of anything I could say that's negative about this movie. I probably wanted to see just a little bit more action as Spider-Man. Even though there is plenty of action scenes, I kind of wish that Vulture and Spider-Man would have duked it out just a little bit more, especially towards the end. And other than that, the Mary Jane character, well, it's not even Mary Jane, her name is Michelle, but they call her MJ. Her character was okay, but I can kind of see her character being more important in the next Spider-Man movie, but she didn't really have too much to do in this movie. And